Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me today I have
Yaron Dycian. I'm the Chief Product and Strategy Officer for WINT.
And let's explain well, you should explain because you know far better than I do, what WINT is.
So WINT is a solution to manage water in facilities and construction sites. We help our customers prevent water leak damage, and we help them conserve water and reduce the sustainability impact and the environmental footprint of their facilities.
And you mentioned construction sites. Why don't you explain why construction sites need water? What is the cause that requires water to be conserved on those sites?
Yeah, so the main problem construction sites are dealing with is water leak damage on site. Mm-hmm. It's the number one cause for claims, number one cause for damages and delays on sites. In fact, 70% of insurance payouts for construction sites are a result of water leak damage in the building. So it's a massive problem for both GCs, developers, and insurers.
Okay, and where does WINT come in there? How do you address this problem in ways that aren't traditional? Like from what I gather from what you sent me, AI is a big component. So maybe you could talk about the high-tech aspects of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we look at the water flow at specific points in the site. Our systems automatically analyze this. They understand the water flow pattern. They understand what's normal at that location. And then when something abnormal happens, they can automatically alert and can automatically shut off a valve. The valve and the meter are standard off-the-shelf equipment. Either the GC or the developer buys it, or we can provide it to them just to make life easier.
Okay. I remember listening to an interview with Bill Gates once where he talked about how toilets, for example, another water management thing, when you get down to it, they haven't progressed since like the mid-19th century in terms of technology. The thing we've got is essentially the same thing somebody had a century and a half ago. And I would assume water management in the construction realm and with buildings is kind of the same. Like it hasn't moved forward past where it just kind of worked 100 years ago or so. And you guys are changing that.
That's exactly right. So we all take water in our buildings, whether they're a construction site or an operational building, we all take them for granted, right? Water comes in, we drink it, we use it, whatever. It's not that expensive. And so be it. We don't think of it much more than air, except it has a bill coming in monthly or quarterly or whatever. And the problem is, once you treat something like this, it will misbehave. Water is not monitored. The best thing that happened to water over the past 100 years is low-flow toilets or whatnot. It's ridiculous, right? If you think of that, then a low-flow toilet will reduce the amount of water you use per flush by, 3 gallons or whatever. But if you've got a leaky toilet in your facility, it's going to eat up around 100 gallons per hour. So, it's order of magnitude worse. And low flow, high flow, they'll all malfunction. If you look at the damage aspect, it's never been monitored. So people do, things like they put sensors on the floor. When water reaches it, it'll yell. Great. It's tough to put it all over the place. And in any case, when it yells, you've already, seen the damage. So it's been treated, with not enough attention, and the results are showing.
And one of the reasons to monitor it, besides preventing damage, is carbon footprints can be lowered. So maybe you could explain, because I don't think, I'm sure you're right, but I don't think of water and then carbon footprints. But that is exactly what you're doing, is reducing carbon footprints by addressing the water part of it. Exactly,
because if you think of how water gets to us, it actually has a pretty extensive cycle end to end. So it starts by acquiring the water. Maybe we pull it from a river, maybe we drill a well. Then we pump it up. Then we take it into a facility where we treat it, and we get all the bacteria and whatnot out. So there's chemicals, there's a process. Then we pump it to the consumer. Then we pump it up maybe 20 floors in the building. We use it, but that's not the end of it. At that point, we pump it back into a sewage treatment facility that takes up a lot of energy. And if you've ever had the unfortunate luck of stepping next to one of them, it's really smelly. That smell is methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas. And all of this cycle creates a lot of greenhouse emissions from the chemicals, from the electricity, and from the eventual treatment of the sewage. Every cubic meter of water used will generate approximately 20 pounds of emissions. That's a lot.
Mhm.
We've caught leaks for customers, one cooling tower leak, and these things go unnoticed for long times because we don't monitor. That one cooling tower leak that we caught would have generated as much carbon emissions as flying 170 people from London to New York over a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. A single leaky toilet that we leave untreated will generate as much carbon emissions throughout a year as a typical passenger car. And I'll tell you what, every building we go into has at least 2% of its toilets leaking at any point in time. So,
Mhm.
we've got cars driving, from a carbon emissions perspective all over the place, totally needlessly.
Right. Okay. And also, from what you sent me, you've worked on sites like the Empire State Building, and so that makes me think of that's kind of cool by itself. But besides that, that's an older building, and so this is one way to address retrofitting an older building and reducing the carbon footprint without tearing it apart, basically.
Exactly right. It's one more thing to conserve. By the way, water, as much as the carbon is important, water is also becoming a scarce resource. So
Hmm.
50% of the US now, lower 50 states, is under severe drought. 50% of Europe is under severe drought, the worst in 2,000 years or so. I mean, we're seeing
Hmm.
it, right? Places are drying up, rivers are drying up, and it's a real problem. So just saving the water is as big a challenge as the carbon emissions.
Does your technology network so you can sort of monitor at a, for lack of a better term, meta scale, how water conservation is happening?
We can. We're seeing, we've got 10,000, a little under 10,000 units installed worldwide. We're seeing how, customers are improving the sustainability stance and they're preventing a lot of damage. Absolutely. We're seeing it on a mega scale now.
How easy it is to implement this technology and what you're doing into a existing building or a new one for that matter?
Right. So, the existing building has, cutting a pipe in an existing building is more involved than installing it up front. And I think that's
Mhm.
what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of these construction sites now starting to plan for water conservation, starting to plan for, if you will, water resistance of the building throughout its life cycle. So, we're getting the plans a year before, ground breaks at the site. And we help, actually you make changes to the plan. Once you have the
Mhm.
expertise, it's not exactly the same plan as you would for plumbing without water conservation and water resistance for the building. So we help our customers and the MEP planners and so on plan the deployment. They start putting us in when temporary water goes in, and then they install the systems as part of the building fabric. It's not a big deal. Installing a few tens of thousand meters or one per apartment is really not a big effort when you're doing it from day one. And that's, I think, where the motion is going. If you ask me, in 5-10 years from now, it'll be stupid to build a building without, never mind wind, but this kind of technology. Like you wouldn't build,
Right.
without a sprinkler system or an elevator.
Hmm. Okay, and if people are interested, like a lot of people who listen to this are in the construction industry and they might be interested in installing this in the buildings they're working on, where would they go to learn more?
www.wint.ai, WINT.ai.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.